My second violin concerto was commissioned by the Dallas Symphony and the Harrisburg Symphony. I'm proud to have it recorded now by the Oklahoma City Philharmonic. The violin concerto opens with a dramatic theme that's stated right initially at the beginning. The strings murmur a very quiet background as Noah comes in and stridently plays the melody that will become the theme of the concerto. The first movement develops this melody in all sorts of rhythmic and syncopated ways. The second movement is based on an ancient Jewish spiritual idea. It's part of a larger meta collection of movements in 10 of my orchestral works over the past decade. The spiritual idea that I'm working with in the second violin concerto and the second movement is the idea of chachma, which is loosely translated as knowledge, but in the spiritual idea, chachma has a much deeper idea. It's actually the moment of inspiration that someone would have in a creative process, like the flash of inspiration that occurs before all of the details are worked out. The third movement is short and brief, almost klezmer-like. It features Noah doing all sorts of virtuosic gymnastics in a brief dance-like scherzo. The final movement is very fast and energetic, syncopated and full of energy. I purposely keep the main idea of the concerto out of the way. In fact, the majority of this last movement develops ideas unique to this fourth movement, which are jazzy and jaunty and dance around. It's only in the final concluding minute of the last movement where I combine the themes of the fourth movement plus the original idea of the concerto. Noah takes the main idea of the concerto and the orchestra hums along with the other ideas of the movements until the concerto is brought to a triumphant close.
I must say it's not easy. So he has lots of stretches that have a 6/8 pattern against a 3/4. That is one again used from South America, but then he makes it again his own. There is the sense of minimalism. There's a repetitiveness that is very exciting. There are again he uses little snippets of motifs that are repeated, but then almost like a Stravinsky method of building blocks where he suddenly uses, instead of a 4/4 bar with 8 eighths notes, suddenly only has 7 eighths note and kind of does a little hiccup, and it kind of throws you off guard. And then he has sections in that first movement that are maybe 45 seconds long, where one hiccup is after the other, and it's really exciting. But it really throws you off, and one has to figure out even how to conduct it.
I was kind of amused. I read somewhere, I think it was on Mr. Leshnoff's website, how it's described as a toe tapper. So it's really enjoyable for the audience, but meanwhile, the orchestra and the soloist are working like nuts to bring out this quite complex rhythmic interplay. And you'll find rhythms that are jazzy, there's Latin kind of flavor too. It's a complex score in that we're entering and exiting and playing off of each other and trying to create this seamless effect of just a constant beat. But I'm really proud of how the group has come together in this short time to really make it work. And this soloist is just fabulous.
It's really interesting how this came about, first of all, because again, there's so many violin soloists out there. And the premiere was by the concertmaster of the Dallas Symphony. So Dallas premiered it with their concertmaster. Fantastic. And we thought, okay, what else can we do? You know, what other perspective can we give to that? We both were like, what other big orchestras are there? Well, there is the Berlin Philharmonic. And why not? You can always ask. And the interesting thing about Noah Bendix-Balgley is that he's American and extremely talented. I'm really happy that it's an American who lives outside, who has different perspectives. And so he's fantastic.
I feel so fortunate to be able to play in this orchestra and to have world-class soloists come in and inspire us, basically. I mean, I'm sitting, feet away from whoever's up there, and Noah is the concertmaster of the Berlin Philharmonic, top orchestra in the world, and he's fabulous.
Well, it's an exciting project. I mean, normally I'm playing the standard concertos when I'm soloing, and it's nice to do something different, to learn a new piece, add something new to the repertoire. And it's a really nice piece. I've really been enjoying getting to know it from my perspective, and then working with the orchestra to prepare the concerts and recording. I talked to Jonathan Leshnoff before I was coming here, talking to him about some aspects of the piece. And he mentioned a couple of direct influences already from his side. There's a little section in the first movement where he said, "Oh, that's my Bach Preludio section," and then I immediately knew what he meant, because he put in a little thing where the violin is playing over 3 strings, separate notes that are then a hemiola, against what the orchestra is doing, and it's a figure that Bach uses in one of the solo partitas. And then we talked a bit about the influence in the third movement, this short little kind of dance movement, and I told him, for me this feels very influenced by sort of klezmer Yiddish music. That's something that's close to my heart, that I do a lot of. And when we were talking on the phone, and Jonathan said, "Oh, did you read it? Did you already know that?" And I said, "No, that was just my sense." And he said that actually that was exactly what he intended that movement to be, like a Yiddish tanz, a Yiddish dance. So that resonated with me as well. In the slow movement, the second movement is really very beautiful music, and allows the violin to sort of soar and sing in a way that the other movements are much more rhythmically driven. But in the second movement, he gives the orchestra, but it's the second movement is only strings and harp. He gives the orchestra a chance to sing, and especially the violin too.